Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you. Welcome to the MSDynamicsWorld.com Fall Retail Series. I'm Jason Gumpert from MS Dynamics World, and I am really happy to have you all here with us today for this event. We have today Will Roche, a retail industry and CRM veteran whose past experiences include leadership roles at IBM and Microsoft, and he is now a Senior Vice President at Raymark, where his focus is customer-centric retailing. We invite you to add your feedback and ask questions today throughout the session. And there are a couple ways you can do this. First, you can use the Q&A block that you'll see to the right of the screen, right of the materials. You can also use the chat as well, and we'll be tweeting a bit throughout the event. We'll be using the hashtag MSDWRetail to sort of track what's going on in the event today. So, without further delay, please allow me to welcome Will Roche.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate everybody's time here, and hopefully we'll have some very interesting information to share with you. We've been here working on this whole concept of customer-centric retailing at Raymark for many years. Being a company that's focused on high-end luxury retail, many of our customers have been demanding that they have access to information about their customers and abilities to go do things with their customers. So we've been doing this for quite a few years, and the last few years, though, we've spent an enormous amount of time focusing on, how do we make customer-centric retailing a reality. So the theme of this presentation is it shouldn't be lonely at the top. 10 ways you can retain your top 20%. But basically, it's about the fact that many people, even though they may shop at a retailer on a regular basis and spend a lot of money with them, don't believe the retailer knows who they are. So there's a disconnect many times with the fact that a customer may see themselves as loyal, but they don't feel like their retailer is treating them as a loyal customer. So we want to start off actually with a little video here to try to encapsulate what we think customer-centric retailing is. So I hope you enjoyed that, but basically we felt that it's the experience and more so than the technology, and that we focus here at Raymark on how to get the result that we want with our retailing customers, not necessarily a bunch of shiny objects that may or may not actually help drive behavior and differentiate a customer from their competitors. The first thing that we've really come to embrace is this Pareto principle. It's the idea that 20% of something drives 80% of something. And any way that you look at that, and it can be used for a lot of generalized ways. But when it comes to retailers, the 20% of your customers either should or statistically should drive 80% of your profits. So what that means is that if you focus on those customers, your, quote, top or loyal customers, and do that really well, that you ought to see significant increases in profits. And there's a lot of different numbers out there about how much that can be, but it is significant with a focus on 20%, how much additional profit you can drive as a retailer. But basically what that means is that, it's the old saying, you can't be everything to everybody. So understand, who it is that you want to have a relationship with. But the bottom line is that the world out there has been changing as everyone talks about the Internet. And the fact is the Internet is disintermediating the retailing marketplace. And by what I mean by disintermediating it means that you don't have to have a retailer on the front end. There's many retail companies, wholesalers that are selling goods directly. There are obviously companies like Amazon who've taken over, the books and electronics and a lot of different things like that, that quite frankly have caused a lot of issues with some retailers like Circuit City and others going out of business. So what you have to be is to be in the business of actually being in retail and having stores is to have a relevance and an experience, not necessarily the product. So you can get the product anywhere. I can go on the Internet and find a product and buy it. But what's going to compel me to go into your store? And I have to have a differentiated and competitive experience that I'm providing in order to provide and bring the sustainability that I need as a company to be able to show these folks that I'm going to be around for a while and that I'm going to be there for a lifetime relationship. The bottom line is that you have to be focused on the customer in the future or you're not going to be around. So what does that mean, really, to be focused on a customer? Because a lot of people view good customer service as customer-centric retailing. And, obviously providing good customer service is a thing that is very important to how you engage with your customers. But being customer-centric means that you identify and you bring these kinds of attributes to the table here, like the satisfaction, trust as a huge one, but all these things that are visceral in terms of how people feel. So a lot about what makes people buy things and what makes people go into a retail store has to do with the feeling they have when they go in there, the experience that you're driving. So, you've obviously got to love your customers, but you've got to choose who you want to have a relationship with. That means that going back to this 80-20 rule, you got to figure out who are those people that you're going to be able to change behavior, modify behavior, anyway, get the output of behavior you want because they have an affinity to these goods and services that you're selling and the services that you're providing. And then you'd be relentless about it. So that's where a lot of where we talk about technology comes into place. How do you do that as a large retailer? How do you identify how those people are, and how do you go about being relentless and providing value? So as we all know, these are things that you see all the time about the consumer's fickle and they want to be in control and all these different things down here. But in actuality, the customer wants to have a relationship. They want to have who they are, and they want for you to take that information and to provide value. So there's a lot of things that in here that are gimmicky in terms of how do I get the customer because they're here and everywhere. But the bottom line is that, it's about human behavior. And if you do the right things and you're loyal to your customers like they're loyal to you as a retailer, and you show that, then you're going to win their hearts and souls. So one of the biggest reasons, and there's a lot of reasons that customers, they may be distracted for a minute with new products that come out, or they may be influenced temporarily by friends or whatever. When you add it all up, they're minor compared to the major reason that customers go somewhere else and don't come back, and it's called neglect. It means ignoring your customers, taking for granted that they're always going to be there, they're always going to be buying, and you can count on it, year after year. So that is the biggest demise of many retailers out there, taking for granted their customers and their buying patterns and their loyalty, if you will, to that brand. So, what are retailers trying to do? You hear it every day. I want to increase loyalty. Oh, okay. I want to increase visit conversions. I want them to come in and sell them more stuff. I want to increase how much I sell them. And, I want to optimize my costs. But the bottom line here is these are all interesting things, but the reason they want to do this is because retail is a business. And they have to bring a profit margin to the company. And they feel like if they do all these things, then that's going to drive that. And by the way, it's pretty accurate. But if you don't not only do all these things, but do it in such a way that you can understand what drives loyalty, what drives those visits, what drives how much they spend, then you're not going to be very successful. So having the information and the technology to be able to control these levers is extremely important. So what we're going to talk about here is 10 ways we feel very strongly about that as a retailer you should be focused on when it comes to retaining your top customers and even growing your business and your profitability. So the first one and most important one is know your customer. So that's not even as much to the degree of I need to know what makes them tick, which you do, by the way, but as much as who are those customers that have an affinity to you. So what are the type of persons or people that have an affinity to buying from you? So if you're a GameStop, for example, just draw that up. There's going to be certain kind of people that we're going to be marketing to at GameStop, and then within GameStop, there's a certain affinity of people that are going to be have more propensity to keep coming back. And what are the things that make them different than others? So it's just really understanding, how do you map your goods and services with a customer base out there so that you can figure out what does a customer look like that would be a loyal customer. And one of the ways of doing that, obviously, is saying, all right, who are my customers and who are loyal right now, and looking at that information. So taking that and using analytics to figure out, what are those affinities that you have with your customers, given that you have captured that data, by the way. Then you can go ahead and begin to understand, how do I do a better job at going after and focusing on those customers. So, to start out, you got to figure out, well, how do I get this starting point? So how do you get this information to begin with? And a lot of times, customers that buy from you and have a pattern of buying from you over a long period of time that may view themselves as loyal customers are willing to give you all the information you want, because likely they trust you and there's a reason that they're continuing to buy from you. So customers, if they think that you're going to give them some value and you're going to go do something for them that's going to make their life better, they will give you all the information that you want. You don't have to go out and scrape on the internet and find out all this information, because they'll hand it over to you if you actually can provide value. So being able to go there and then take your customers that you want to have a relationship with, and then start taking the information they're giving you, whether it's directly or indirectly, and then doing something with it. So it's very important that you capture all this data and then you analyze it so that you can come as close as possible to providing them that individual experience they're looking for. So know your customer, and knowing that customer is not just I have some information on my customer and I'm going to go send them offers. It's really your differentiator. So I'll tell you that retail used to be a service business, and I'm going to tell you that retail is a service business, and it's going to be a service business in the future, and that the internet is going to intermediate anybody that's not in the service business. So if you don't have these relationships and if you don't have experiences that differentiate you from buying it on the internet or even your competitors, then guess what? You're not going to be around long. So when you go through the process of saying, okay, who are these customers and what do I do with this information I have now, it's really then to begin to almost deconstruct your business. So it's going back and doing some basic process reengineering. And really to start off with that, though, you have to have a vision of, and a strategy about what you as a retailer want to provide as a value to your customers. So you as a retailer became a retailer because there was something you did and there's something you provided that was a value. You have to go back and really look hard at what that is and then put together the scenarios, if you will, all the way down to a workflow that enable you to be able to provide a value and be able to measure that value to those customers that you want to have that relationship with. So getting down to the details of what it is that's going to happen when you sign on to the website or you get something on your mobile phone or you walk into the store, all these things have to be mapped out, and they have to have flow and make valuable sense to the customer. And this used to be or would be very, very difficult in the past because you'd have to depend on training and the person to do the right thing at the right time. And now with technology, we can make all this stuff happen pretty automatically. So here's some scenarios, but basically this sort of thing is up to the retailer to figure out what kind of things they want to do to create value and differentiate themselves. But obviously having a sense of exclusivity, which is recognition for those customers that they feel are loyal, that they are actually loyal, and that they get offers that are you feel like it's just for them, and that there's a sense of urgency to act on those offers. Those kinds of things are significant in how you keep that constant contact and also create value with your customers. They know me, and they're giving me a great deal. And the other thing is obviously constant communication. So not in an intrusive way, but in a way that makes them feel like they are concerned as a retailer about you as your customer and want to make sure that they do a better job. So using that data and taking that data and analyzing that data and making that work for you as a retailer across whatever point in your business that the customer chooses to engage. So it's the concept that I'm calling a ubiquitous customer connection. So constantly, you want your customer constantly connected to you so that you're going to be easily accessed for whatever it is they need. And that's really based on what are you doing to make them feel that you have a personal relationship with them and that you're providing value. And that's where you've got to, as much as possible, provide that personalized experience for the customer at every point in your business. And they can't be looked upon as separate entities. They have to really begin to flow together as one experience. And one way of doing that, obviously, is empower your sales associates, but there's a statement up here that says customers hit the brick and mortar wall. What that means is that they got all these things they do on the web or they get on their phone and they walk in the store and the store associate does not know them from Adam's house cat. So all of a sudden you had a great thing going and it just falls apart because there's a certain expectation set up for the customer when he's walking in the store that they're going to know what you've been doing with your retail experiences outside the store and that they flow together. So it's very important to have your sales associates empowered with the information about their customers and the things that will delight the customers, and then workflow to help drive that experience in such a way that it seems like a contiguous flow of experiences from the web to the phone to the store. And when you get into looking at experiences, we're saying that some people are going to like to have a sales associate go up and talk to them. Some people would not. And so it's having choices for your customer as well as to what kind of experience they want to have in your store. So having that continuous flow of experience could be that I go do things on the web and I walk in the store and I pick up where I left off on the web on a kiosk. Or my mobile phone. So there's a lot of things that you can do to help them knock down that brick wall, if you will, of the store, but using self-service as a tool to do that. In social media, I think right now is as far as retailing there's a lot of people groping out there as to what it is or isn't. There's people that they sell on Facebook, and maybe that is a place that can turn out to an outlet. I'm not sure, but I think ultimately, really, what it's about is taking those top customers and creating vehicles for those top customers to communicate with each other and with their friends, so that they're acting as salespeople for you. They're selling your product. They're championing your brand. And that's where this thing becomes huge, is that you want to not just have people out there that, sign up and buy something on your website. You want to have people to get on your website and Facebook and talk about how great you are as a company and all the great experiences they had. And ultimately, it's like everybody says, you have to listen, more than you have to talk. And in order to be able to nurture your customers and really provide value and the experience that they're looking for, you really have to listen to them. You have to understand them. So you have to take information like you get off a social network, and you have to take feedback that they're giving and do something with it. Not just take it, but show demonstratable output as a result of what your customers are telling you. Very, very important, because that really shows that you care about them and that you trust what they're telling you. And then when you want to message your customers as an output of that, you don't smash all this stuff into these big groups that are actually different. So it's easy to take and segmentize customers in such a way that you can say, I'm going to broadly segmentize these in this group, and I'm going to send this message out. But what happens when you do that is that you're not providing the individual relationship and value that you're supposed to be doing. So now you're back into that. I'm pounding out emails to these groups, and I'm hoping that they're listening to me and seeing value in what I'm doing. It's really more about continuing to focus on the person and the individual ways that you can make your life better. In order to be able to do all this stuff is where the technology starts coming in. So, a lot of retailers out there are frankly struggling with the fact that they've got legacy systems that were built 20 years ago, and to have this contiguous flow of information and workflow and business logic and all these other things that are required underneath this, where you're really taking, how do I run my business, and merging that with the technology, requires that you have a real hard look at your infrastructure and what are the tools you're using to be able to do that. We hear a lot about mobile. Mobile is a big word. I'm going to go have mobile. I'm going to go put tablet devices in all my stores. I'm going to do all these things. And you know what? Mobility is actually, in my humble opinion, that glue between e-commerce and the store. It's actually a way that you can drive people to the store and create experiences and a lot of other things. However, you really have to make sure that you have the business processes that connect the phone to the web to the store, because having all these disparate applications that run on the web or run on your phone or run the store and they don't come together is not going to win the race. So it's very important that you do use these tools, and they're absolutely critical, but you have to make sure that you're doing the right things with those tools. And that goes back to the basics of understanding what it is you want to do as a business and how do you want to create value. So what I want to do here now is that, we're not talking much about product, but I did, this is about Microsoft Dynamics, and this is about the fact that we use Microsoft CRM as a platform to do a lot of these things. It's the engine that we use. So I'm going to turn this over now to Dania Riley, who's going to take us through some of the things that we've done with CRM, just to give you an inkling of how we've taken a basic product and retailized it, if you will, for customer-centric retailing.
Thanks, Will. So like Will just mentioned, today I'll be showing you a bird's eye view of Raymark Charisma CRM. And that's a retail-specific CRM solution built on the Microsoft Dynamics CRM platform. And part of Raymark's customer-centric offering, Charisma allows you to do a number of different things. And I'll go through some of the main points before moving over to the demo. 1, Charisma allows you to identify your best customers. Leverage the rich information that you already have in customer purchase history for segmentation and clustering purposes, and define in your own terms what is a best customer. You're not stuck with a rigid definition, whether you use margins or frequency, how many dollars they spent, or a combination, or other ways entirely. You can define this segment, your top customers, your best customers, the way that makes sense for your business. And this can even evolve over time if it needs to. 2, obtain a 360-degree view of your customers across all channels. So that information that I just mentioned that we would leverage for segmentation purposes, we want it to come from all channels. So if you're doing brick and mortar, e-commerce, m-commerce, even social media, we want you to get a true global understanding of your customer. 3, improved loyalty with targeted, personalized, relationship-based marketing. So I'm going to show you in just a few moments how having your customer profiles, analytics, segmentation, loyalty, and campaign management all in a single application makes this a very simple and seamless process. 4, improved stock movement with intelligent cross-selling and upselling. So knowing your customers is key here. For example, if you have a slow-moving product, let's say you have a leopard print cardigan, wouldn't it make sense to first target all of the customers who have purchased leopard print in the past? You already know that they have an affinity for it, and you can do just that with Charisma. 5, win top-of-mind positioning over the competition with messages that really engage customers. This is what it all comes down to. Knowing your customer better enables you to build stronger and more meaningful relationships with them. And with the thousands of brand messages we all are bombarded with every day, we're more likely to actually tune in to the ones that are most relevant to us. And finally, 6, increase productivity with automated marketing and customer service. So when we set out to make Charisma, we wanted to make customer centricity simple and easy to achieve above all. And now I'm going to move over to a demo to show you just how simple that really is. So in this short demo, we're going to be looking at the customer profile, segmentation, and marketing campaigns to demonstrate how retailers can use Charisma to send the most targeted and relevant marketing messages and promotions to the right customer, to that 20% at the right time. I'm starting here with my retail customers dashboard, and this gives me a quick graphical snapshot of the information that's most relevant to me. So let's say I'm a marketing manager at an apparel retailer, and while I might be doing really well with getting customers to sign up and give me their information on the web, I have an objective to improve information gathering tactics in the store. As soon as I open the application, I have a graphical representation of how I'm doing, and I can immediately take action from there. A great thing about Microsoft Dynamics CRM is that non-technical users like a marketing manager like myself, or even my coordinator, they can easily create their own dashboards without having to involve IT. They become more independent, and they can adapt these dashboards over time to their changing priorities, since we all know that retail doesn't stand still. So down over here, I also have a grid with my top spenders. So these are my top customers. And I can drill right into the customer profile to take a look at Ms. Alicia Spears. Let's take a look at the customer profile. Earlier, Will spoke about the importance of knowing your customer and capturing data at every touch point. So this is where it all coincides. We have lots of information here: demographic data, contact information, privacy preferences, whatever you're interested in knowing about your customers. And because every retailer is unique, we can also leverage the customized form capability of Microsoft Dynamics CRM to easily configure this customer profile form based on the retailer's needs. So whereas a cosmetics retailer might be interested in things like, let's see, eye color, a footwear retailer is probably not. So you only have the information that is relevant to you and your business and your customers. In addition to the base information in the customer profile, we also have transactional information about our customers' purchase history. So we're able to see that on this particular date in this store, Alicia Spears spent this amount. And we can also go further and see the actual products that she purchased. So Alicia bought 10 pairs of gloves on that day, so she's preparing for a cold winter. This transaction information is also used down here in sales statistics. This is where past behaviors get analyzed and aggregated, and we can start to see things like average transaction values, her lifetime amount, and these are elements that are going to be used in RFM calculations that I'll be showing you in just a few moments. In addition to this transaction history and statistics, we also have loyalty information right here in the customer profile. We can see that Alicia is an elite member, and she has a pretty good points balance. She has over 27,000 points right now. So all this information and any combination of it can be used for segmentation, marketing lists, and campaigns. And with Microsoft Dynamics CRM's workflows, campaigns and communications can even be automated. So for instance, I could set up a workflow that would send out an automated email as soon as customers receive a threshold, let's say 25,000 points, to notify them that they're now eligible for a reward. Before we leave the customer profile, I also wanted to introduce our new Facebook component. This is where retailers can complement and extend the customer profile that they have with enterprise information. They can extend that with information that customers volunteer about themselves through social media. So for instance, I can see here that Alicia Spears has over 500 friends. That might be pretty good depending on what kind of customers you're dealing with. I might want to invite all of my online ambassadors like Will mentioned earlier. These are people with a high reach to a special product launch event. So now that we've had an idea of what kind of information is in that customer profile, we're going to go take a look at how we can leverage that information. So now we're going to talk about segmentation. Marketing lists over here enable us to create lists of customers based on ad hoc queries of any piece of data that we have in the system or any combination thereof. They can be static, a snapshot in time, or dynamic, so dynamically update over time. Some examples that we see here are, again, our top spenders, all men, all women, people with a birthday in a particular month, or we can even use those customer statistics to build out marketing lists. You're only limited to the information that you're gathering about your customers and your marketing team's imagination. In addition to these marketing lists, Charisma also offers an automated segmentation engine down here in customer segments. And this is something that can be scheduled to group customers into segments based on RFM, like Will mentioned earlier, so recency, frequency, and money. And it also groups customers based on their preferred product type or store division. So over here we see the customers that prefer they make most of their purchases in the sport division. And the goal of all this customer segmentation is, of course, to target the right groups of customers in ways that are very relevant to them. So let's move over to campaigns now. So for instance, our fall collection campaign. Within this one fall collection campaign, we can associate different waves. So I might start with a sneak peek, and this only goes to my top spenders, my top customers, or maybe those with the most social reach. And then I can simply add a new wave to this campaign for a different segment of customers. Measuring the success of your campaigns is essential. So I'm going to close off this demo, sort of where we began. We started with a dashboard, and that was one way of measuring our success. And here I'm going to show you a new report here. So this is an email campaign report, and Will spoke earlier about the importance of integration, and this email campaign report is a great example. So not only do we have the traditional email marketing metrics that one would expect coming from the email service provider that's integrated with campaign activities within Charisma. So over here we have how many emails I sent out, how many opened, how many people visited the website, how many unsubscribed. But the last three columns, these are actually dollars and cents, true ROI coming from the point of sale and e-commerce. And this enables marketers to measure true ROI again with a single click. Isn't that every marketer's dream? Hopefully I've given you a taste of how Charisma will be an important tool in helping you become a more customer-centric retail organization. I'm now going to hand the mic back over to Will for the next portion of today's webinar.
Thank you, Dania.
Welcome.
So before we end and open it up for questions, I wanted to leave you with some thoughts. So this is a lot of, here's all these ideas that we have about the 10 things you should do as a retailer and about 80-20 rules and all those things. But, you know, the question says, all right, what do I do? What is it the next thing I should do as a retailer? And, you know, how do I start this journey? So broken it down, and by the way, this is some good information that was actually from Gartner, but I absolutely concur, and that is that you have to start with the vision. So you have to start at the top of the company with your vision as to why are we doing this, and what is the purpose in it, and that everybody gets bought into the vision as a company and as a culture. The next thing you got to really understand is that in order to be customer-centric, you've got to put the customer as the foundation of your business. The customer is what drives everything. So even the question that comes up about who is in charge of the customer is extremely important, in terms of understanding, how your business operates. And then, obviously, this idea of a customer experience, which means how do I really know that I'm doing the right things and I'm really generating the experience that is relevant to my customers in such a way that I'm actually moving the levers in terms of the visitations and the amount of money they spend and all these sorts of things that are really the justification for this investment. And then making sure that you have an organization that's driven around the customer, but more importantly, that has incentivized plans and processes based on the customer and making the customer delighted. Then you have to go turn those into processes once you understand those, and then re-engineer from the outside in, meaning don't sit in rooms and speculate about how a customer wants things. Go out and look at it from a customer's eyes and even use customers to help you determine how best to create that experience based on the customers that you have an affinity with. Treat that customer data as an asset. I like to think of it as gold, actually. It's gold. It's what differentiates you from your competitors, having information about these customers that they've given you. It's a gift that you must treat as a valuable asset. And so understanding that and making your business run around, and on the point that is the most important piece of information that you have is the customer's information is critical. And then setting metrics in place to be able to understand, how are you doing? Are you getting better or worse? And what do you need to do in either case? And then, obviously the technology aspect of doing all this is critical because of today's environment. All these things are, in the web and the cloud and the store and all these different technologies. You better make sure you understand that you have to have a foundation and an architecture that allows you to have one complete integrated and inoperable system. That doesn't mean you have to buy one system from one place, but you definitely have to make sure that you have the technology that allows for real-time performance management, or you're going to fail. And finally, in technology, what do you need? You need to have that optimized infrastructure. So if you're running on a lot of legacy technology or mainframes or whatever, and they're siloed in the fact that you got to run jobs at night to be able to get information, and you can't have that operational capability with your data and workflow, then you've got to have that. So the retail web services, what that means is that data is going to come from a lot of different places. So it's going to come from social networks. It's going to come from other people's systems. And so you have to have a way of consuming that data and then operationalizing that data when you get it. And it's going to be consumed coming in as structured and unstructured. So that's the way of the world, and you just have to figure out how to do that. Having a web services platform means that you're going to have a defined platform that's going to consume retail data. So you have to have someone that really understands what does that mean and how do you do that. Analytics, obviously, is another important item, and it's really about that customer analytics. It's doing the predictive analysis on understanding how you take this information and then you take it and then turn it into something that generates profitability for your company. And that's just not buying anybody's analytics. It takes a lot of understanding in terms of what exactly you want to do with the information you have and how do you make it give you the outputs that you need. Having a single view of data across your business means about having a retail data warehouse where is basically the fountain of truth. All the information about your business is available and accessible through a data warehouse that allows you to have the interoperability and the real-time capability of accessing information that you need to run your business. And then, a rich and portable UI that basically says that you need to be able to have a very similar, if not identical, experience no matter whether you're on a phone or whether you're using a laptop, a notebook or a tablet rather, and or the web, that they all begin to look very identical. And the experience between those different devices look and feel the same. And, we're saying, today HTML5 is the way to do that. And then the obvious thing after you have all that is that ubiquitous consumer connections, meaning that you are connected to that customer all the time. If they're on their phone, if they're in the store, if they're on the web, whatever, they can have direct and easy access to you to be able to continue to have that relationship and have that experience that you've generated for them that they find value in. So this is the end of our presented materials. I hope that you've found this information interesting. We always welcome people to have dialogue with us about how they can improve and learn more about being customer-centric. And by the way, we learn every day from having these discussions as well. So thank you, and I guess I'll turn this over to one of our other folks, Melanie, to see if we've got any questions out there.
Thanks, Will. This is Jason here. I'll just jump in and remind folks that you can ask your questions. Use that Q&A block that you'll see on the right of the screen, or feel free to chat as well if you just want to share a comment. We're definitely happy to take them, and we will take as many questions as you have and as Will has time for here. Will, I wanted to start with a question that had come in. What are some of the best ways to get customers to actually share some of the information about themselves that's so useful here without being too pushy or intrusive?
Well, as I've said before, I think that the first thing is if you're providing value and you're providing an environment that they feel is trustworthy, they'll give you all the information you want. And so it's almost an acid test. If customers are leery of you and won't give you information, and you haven't set up a way to get that information from them in a easy and friendly format, then you're going to realize that there's something that you need to fix, because they should, if they're customers that have an affinity to your brand and the experiences you have, will give you all the information you need.
All right. Yeah, so to the audience, feel free to enter your questions now. Another one that came in, who owns CRM? Does it fall more to sales and marketing in most organizations, or to another group?
Well, it's really, the real question is, who owns the customer? CRM is a tool, a platform. The customer is really the big question. Who owns the customer? And I can tell you that is a question that I find when you have that, a lot of times retailers will start looking at their shoes, because they haven't really thought through, who owns that customer. Because they think about product and about branding the product and those sorts of things. They don't think, who actually owns that. So I find many times when I get in these discussions with customers about, how do we implement and deploy these things that are customer-centric, one of the first things they need to do is figure out who owns the customer. So I think, for the most part, one can say, it's the marketing, but I can tell you, operations and a lot of other groups have something to say about it. So, currently right now, I think that you'd have a bunch of people raise their hands, but I don't know that there's a customer focused role in retail today, and maybe that's something we'll see in the future.
All right, another question here. What are the most common mistakes you're seeing companies make with CRM today? And if I maybe combine that with another one that came in, what are some reasonable time frames for companies for trying to plot out a more holistic strategy with CRM over time? So maybe start with the
Well, I think that the first thing is that, I mentioned this earlier, is the shiny object syndrome, which is, let me just go do something, whether it's right or wrong, and we'll figure it out as we go along. And, some of that is good logic, but a lot of times a lot of money is spent implementing things that have not been well thought through. So the concept is that you have to go do the detailed work on how you want to re-engineer your business and how you want these business processes now to become part of your system applications. So if you just start smacking stuff out there and seeing what happens, you're not going to get the output you want without doing that hard work.
All right, let's
see
here.
So the part two, I'm sorry. So the time frames can be not as extensive as you might believe. We have a customer that we are implementing with right now in China, as a matter of fact, that has worked with us, and they've developed, scenarios and have really built out workflow diagrams for each of these scenarios that we then take and integrate into business process in their applications. So in order for them to do that, they had to go through this idea of understanding, what it is they wanted to happen at these various points of business that they engage with their customer, and how do they want to run their operations, for us to be able to go take that technology. And we're doing all this in 6 months. So it doesn't have to be like a lifelong 4-year deal. It can happen a lot quicker than you think, but it does require a company to be focused and understand what they're trying to get done.
We have a question here. I'm a marketing director who sees a lot of value in implementing CRM for my business. How can I obtain buy-in from my CEO, CIO, and CFO?
Well, it's money. So in order to get buy-in from, the executives, like I go back to the fact that, retail is a business, and they're driven by profits, and those profits especially are much more intense in a company that's publicly owned. So when you talk about this and you talk about, hey, I want to do all these things with CRM, or the customer aspect of focusing on doing more with at an individual level, it's got to be some return in money, and that's where you get into being able to document and put together in a very succinct way, what are the outputs of this thing versus what are the inputs in terms of financial investment.
All right, I think I'll make a last call for questions here. I think we're pretty much at the end of the queue. If anyone else does have a question, please do ask it now for Will Roche. If we don't have any others, why don't we wrap it up here? Will, thanks so much for talking to us today. Great information that you shared, and really good look at the state of the market.
You're welcome, and of course, if anyone has any further questions or need to collaborate, it's wroche, R-O-C-H-E, at raymark.com. Thank you all, and have a great day.